They didn't just want a roof, they wanted mine. Down to the hardwood floors I sanded with bloodied knuckles. My name is Melinda Carter, and at 35, I've learned that independence isn't inherited. It's earned through sacrifice, sweat, and saying no when everyone expects you to say yes. I'm a senior accounting manager at Pinnacle Systems here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's not glamorous work, but it pays well enough to keep me comfortable without crossing into luxury territory. Single by choice, no kids, no pets, no debt. Just me and my carefully constructed life. The duplex in Fairhaven changed everything. 15 minutes from downtown Charlotte, tucked into a quiet suburban neighborhood where kids still ride bikes and neighbors wave from their porches. It took me 5 years of brutal discipline to save $60,000 for that down payment. 5 years of working 7 days a week. My regular job Monday through Friday, then freelance bookkeeping for small businesses every weekend. 5 years of no vacations, no takeout dinners, no dating, no social life worth mentioning. While my friends were posting Instagram photos from beach trips and wine bars, I was hunched over spreadsheets in my studio apartment, calculating every dollar. I wore the same 3 work outfits on rotation and learned to cook everything from YouTube tutorials. The sacrifice felt worth it the day I held those keys. The renovation nearly killed me. I taught myself everything from YouTube videos: painting, tiling, installing light fixtures. My hands cracked and bled from sanding those hardwood floors. My knees stayed permanently bruised from crawling around laying tile. I'd come home from my day job covered in paint and drywall dust, looking like I'd been in a construction accident. The night I finished the kitchen backsplash, those beautiful subway tiles I'd installed one by one, I sat on my living room floor and cried. Not from exhaustion, but from pure accomplishment. Now I live in Unit A, and Unit B is rented to Jonas, a quiet software engineer who pays on time and never complains about anything. It's the perfect setup. My mortgage is covered, I have my own space, and for the first time in my adult life, I'm building actual wealth instead of just surviving paycheck to paycheck. My family sees it differently. Mom and Dad, Diane and Ronald Carter, are good people with traditional values, and a blind spot the size of Texas when it comes to their golden boy son. Dad's a retired construction foreman who worked his ass off his whole life. Mom was a school secretary until she retired last year. They're loving parents, but they've spent 3 decades treating my younger brother Colin like he's made of spun glass while expecting me to be bulletproof. Colin's 32, movie star handsome, and charming as hell when he wants to be. He's also never held a job longer than 18 months. Retail, warehouse work, sales, landscaping. He's tried it all and quit it all. There's always an excuse. Bad boss, workplace politics, health issues. He's perpetually trying something new, but never following through on anything. His wife, Carly, is a whole different animal. Same age as Colin, stay-at-home mom to twins, Lucas and Lily, who are 5 years old and absolutely precious. Carly's got this talent for making excuses sound like tragic circumstances. Childcare's too expensive. The job market's terrible. She has mysterious health problems that flare up whenever responsibility comes calling. Meanwhile, my parents have bailed them out more times than I can count. Paid their rent 3 separate times, bought them a minivan when their car died, covered private preschool tuition for the twins. It's like watching someone feed a stray cat. The more you give, the more they expect. The contrast is stark and painful. I've never asked my parents for a dime. Not when I was saving for the duplex, not when I was doing renovations, not ever. They never offered either. But at family gatherings, my accomplishments get dismissed with comments like, "Well, it's easier when you're single," or "Not everyone has the luxury of being alone," as if being alone was some kind of gift instead of a choice that comes with its own challenges. Last week, Mom called for what she called a casual catch-up. 20 minutes of small talk before she casually asked, "Is Jonas still renting from you?" I mentioned that he was relocating next month, and I swear I heard her tone shift. Well, isn't that just convenient? I didn't think much of it at the time. I should have. Sunday dinner at my parents' house is a monthly tradition I've never missed. I showed up with wine and a store-bought cheesecake. Same as always. Carly arrived 20 minutes late, makeup perfect, clutching her iPad like it contained state secrets. Colin collapsed onto Dad's recliner with a beer while Carly helped Mom in the kitchen, which mostly meant standing around looking overwhelmed. Dinner started normal enough. Dad talked about his golf league. I mentioned wrapping up third-quarter audits at work. Then Colin suddenly perked up and said he was thinking about getting into real estate. The way he said it felt rehearsed. During dessert, as we were all digging into the cheesecake, Carly cleared her throat dramatically. With the sweetest smile, she announced, "When we move into your duplex, we'll need the master bedroom renovated for the twins. It's just not safe for them, as is." I dropped my fork mid-bite. Everyone around the table nodded like this had been discussed and agreed upon in some meeting I wasn't invited to. Mom jumped in immediately. "You're just one person, sweetie. They really need the space." Dad crossed his arms and declared, "Family comes first. We're all in this together." I tried to clarify, my voice barely steady. "Wait, what do you mean? Move in?" That's when Carly reached into her designer tote bag and pulled out a thick contractor packet. She laid it on the table like she was presenting a business proposal and flipped to a page labeled "The Carters' New Duplex Vision." As everyone leaned in to admire her color-coded renovation plans, I sat there speechless while she smiled and said, "We've already booked a walkthrough for next Friday at 10 in the morning. Hope you're free." They weren't asking for shelter. They were plotting a heist, wrapped in ribbon and served with roast chicken. I drove home in a fog, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. The 20-minute drive passed in a blur of streetlights and stop signs I barely registered. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat in the car for another 10 minutes, staring at my duplex, my home, my investment, my goddamn sanctuary, trying to process what had just happened. Inside, I collapsed onto the hardwood floors I'd refinished myself, the same floors Carly was already planning to tear up for her kids' playroom. The tears came hard and fast, but they weren't sad tears. They were pure, concentrated fury. I looked around at everything I'd built with my own hands. The DIY kitchen where I'd taught myself to install subway tile. The handmade bookshelves I'd constructed from YouTube tutorials. The spare bedroom I'd converted into a home office instead of the nursery everyone expected me to want. My phone buzzed. A text from Carly with a PDF attachment. I opened it with shaking fingers. 2 pages of detailed renovation plans, paint color preferences, calming sage green for the master, sunshine yellow for the twins' room, furniture layouts with measurements, links to appliances she wanted me to buy, a budget breakdown suggesting we split renovation costs 50-50, as if I was lucky to only pay half for improvements to my own property. The audacity was breathtaking. That night, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. "Aunt Karen, you know Carly wouldn't ask if they weren't desperate, honey." Cousin Brent, "Not cool to leave family hanging like this." Uncle Mike, "Think about those babies, Mel. They need stability." I turned my phone face down and poured myself a glass of wine, then another. The next morning brought a Facebook notification that made my blood run cold. Carly had posted one of those vague but pointed status updates that middle-aged women use like precision weapons. "You never really know who's in your corner until you need a place to live. Blood means nothing to some people." The comments section filled up fast. "Hang in there, girl. Some people are just selfish. Family should come first. Praying for you and the babies." Each sympathetic response felt like a knife twist. She was crafting a narrative where I was the villain before I even knew there was a story being told. My DMs flooded with messages from distant relatives and family friends. "What's going on with you and Carly? She seems really upset. Hope you can work things out." I ignored them all. By Wednesday, I was second-guessing myself. Maybe I was being cold. Maybe I would help if the roles were reversed. The guilt crept in like fog, clouding my judgment and making me question everything I knew to be true. Childhood memories surfaced. Colin breaking my toys and me getting punished for not sharing. Colin getting the bigger bedroom because boys need more space. Colin getting a car for his 16th birthday while I worked at Dairy Queen to buy my own. I called my friend Allison during my lunch break, desperate for an outside perspective. She listened to the whole story without interrupting, then delivered her verdict in one perfect sentence. "Mel, they're not asking you for a couch to crash on. They're asking you to fund their lifestyle while they make you out to be the villain for hesitating." That clarity hit like ice water. Thursday morning, I got called into HR. My stomach dropped as I walked into the conference room where Janet from Human Resources waited with a manila folder and a concerned expression. "Melinda, we received an anonymous complaint about you that I need to discuss." She slid a printed email across the table. The subject line read, "Unethical housing practices by employee." The body accused me of financial bullying of vulnerable family members and discriminatory housing practices against families with children. Attached were screenshots from inside my duplex, photos of my living room, my kitchen, my bedroom, photos taken without my permission during some previous family visit. "I need you to understand," Janet continued carefully, "that while this appears to be a personal matter, it does reference your property management activities, which could potentially impact your professional reputation here." I explained the situation as calmly as I could, showing her the renovation demands and timeline of events. Janet believed me, but advised caution. "Just be aware that someone is trying to make this about more than family drama. They're questioning your character and your business practices. Document everything." I went home early that day, claiming a migraine that wasn't entirely fake. That evening, I composed a group text to my parents, Colin and Carly. "Please stop discussing private family matters on social media. This is my home, not communal property. We can talk about housing options that work for everyone, but the duplex is not available." The response was immediate and brutal. Carly screenshotted my message and posted it on Facebook with the caption, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them?" The comments exploded. "Wow, that's cold. Those poor babies. Money changes people." My own words, taken out of context, made me look like a heartless landlord evicting a desperate family. That's when I realized what was really happening. This wasn't about emergency housing or family loyalty. This was a calculated campaign designed to pressure me into compliance through shame, social media manipulation, and escalating public embarrassment. Every move was strategic, designed to make me the villain in a story where they were the victims. Carly wasn't just asking for a place to live. She was systematically pushing me out of my own home while playing the martyr for an audience of family and friends who only heard her side of the story. I spent Friday night on my laptop, researching everything I could find about property rights, family disputes, and legal protections for landlords. I downloaded apps to organize screenshots, backed up every text message and email, and started building a case file with timestamps and context. But I also started preparing for war. Saturday morning, I changed all the locks on both units of the duplex. The locksmith, a middle-aged guy named Pete, noticed fresh scratches around the back door. "Looks like someone's been trying to get in," he observed. "Good thing you called when you did." My blood ran cold. Had they already tried to enter? Were they planning to just move in and deal with the consequences later? I spent the weekend installing additional security cameras and uploading everything to cloud storage, tagging files by date and incident. Every screenshot, every manipulative Facebook post, every guilt trip text message got cataloged and preserved. Sunday night, I was organizing my evidence files when Instagram sent me a notification that stopped my heart. Carly had posted a new photo. Lucas and Lily, my beautiful niece and nephew, standing in front of my duplex holding a handmade cardboard sign that read, "Our New Home," in crayon letters. The caption made me sick. The next chapter begins. Ha, blessed cross family, ha, new beginnings. The timestamp showed it was taken that morning, while I was at Home Depot buying security equipment. They had brought those babies to my home, posed them with a sign declaring ownership, and posted it for the world to see. The war wasn't coming anymore. It was already here. They planned to walk through my front door with boxes and lies. I planned to burn the welcome mat and change the locks behind them. Seeing that photo of Lucas and Lily holding that "Our New Home" sign in front of my duplex flipped a switch in my brain. The guilt, the second-guessing, the family loyalty bullshit, all of it evaporated in an instant. They had crossed a line I didn't even know existed, using those innocent babies as props in their manipulation game. I screenshotted everything before Carly could delete it. The photo, the comments, the timestamp. All of it went into my evidence folder. Then I spent the rest of Sunday night researching landlord rights, family property disputes, and defamation law. By 3 in the morning, I had pages of notes and a growing understanding of just how precarious my situation really was. Monday morning, I called in sick and scheduled an emergency consultation with David Kim, a financial advisor my colleague had recommended. I showed up to his office with a briefcase full of documents, mortgage papers, rental agreements, utility bills, tax records, the works. David listened patiently as I explained the situation, occasionally making notes on his yellow legal pad. When I finished, he pulled out his calculator and started running numbers. "Let me break this down for you," he said, sliding a handwritten breakdown across his desk. "If you let them live there rent-free, you're losing $20,000 a year in rental income. If they force you to move out and you have to rent somewhere else, add another $18,000 to $25,000 annually, depending on what you can find. The renovations Carly's demanding would easily cost $30,000, based on current market rates." He looked up at me over his reading glasses. "Their proposed 3 to 5 year stay would cost you somewhere between $145,000 and $225,000 in total losses. So let me ask you this, Melinda. Would you lend them $250,000 interest-free and also give up your home?" The numbers hit like a punch to the gut. I'd known it was expensive, but seeing it laid out in black and white made the insanity crystal clear. That afternoon, I had a locksmith come back and change the locks again, this time to commercial-grade deadbolts. While he worked, I noticed something that made my skin crawl. There were fresh scratches around the back door lock, deeper than what Pete had pointed out on Saturday. "Someone's been working on this pretty hard," the locksmith observed. "Probably tried a few different tools. You got any idea who might want in?" I had more than an idea. I had a suspicion that was rapidly becoming a certainty. Tuesday morning brought another consultation, this time with Jennifer Reyes, a real estate attorney my bank had recommended. Her office was downtown, 20th floor, with a view of the Charlotte skyline that probably cost more per month than most people's rent. Jennifer was direct in a way I appreciated. She listened to my story, reviewed my documents, and gave me the hard truth. "Do not let them set foot inside that unit," she said firmly. "North Carolina law is tricky when it comes to family and implied consent. If you give them permission to stay, even temporarily, even verbally, they could establish tenant rights that would take months to undo legally." She leaned forward, her expression serious. "I've seen cases where families treat properties like shared assets, especially when parents are involved. You need to get paying tenants in there immediately and document everything, every conversation, every demand, every threat. I hired her on the spot. Wednesday, I cleaned Jonas's old unit from top to bottom, staged it with some simple furniture I bought on Facebook Marketplace, and listed it for rent. The response was overwhelming. 14 inquiries in the first 24 hours. I scheduled viewings for the weekend and started running background checks on the most promising candidates. One couple stood out immediately: Michael and Jessica Franklin, both residents at Charlotte General Hospital. They viewed the unit Saturday morning, asked intelligent questions about utilities and parking, and didn't try to negotiate the rent or demand renovations. They were professional, respectful, and exactly what I needed. "We love it," Jessica told me as we stood in the freshly cleaned kitchen. "When would you need us to move in?" "How about next Monday?" I suggested. "The previous tenant moves out this weekend." They exchanged a look and nodded. Perfect. By Sunday afternoon, I had their background checks back: spotless records, stable employment, excellent references from previous landlords. Jennifer helped me draft an ironclad lease agreement with explicit terms about subletting, renovations, and termination clauses. We signed it Monday evening, along with a security deposit that went straight into my business account. The relief was enormous, but it was short-lived. Tuesday afternoon, I was walking to my car after work when I saw Dad standing in the parking lot, leaning against his truck with a thick manila envelope in his hands. My stomach dropped. "We need to talk," he said, without preamble. I approached cautiously. Dad looked older than I remembered, more tired. The envelope in his hands was labeled "Carter Family Agreement, Internal Use Only," in what looked like professional legal formatting. "What's this, Dad?" He handed it to me with a grim expression. "Just read it, Melinda. It's time we all got on the same page." Inside was a typed document titled Family Housing Memorandum. It was clearly written by someone with legal knowledge. Proper formatting, official language, the whole 9 yards. The content made my blood pressure spike. It talked about shared legacy, family stewardship, and primary residence reallocation. It listed Colin and Carly as approved occupants of my duplex and included a good faith occupancy timeline of 5 years, renewable upon mutual agreement. The final paragraph was the real kicker. Refusal to cooperate shall be deemed abandonment of family responsibilities and may result in necessary legal action to protect family assets. I stared at the document, reading it twice to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. "Dad, this isn't legal. You can't just declare ownership of my property." "It's not about ownership, honey. It's about family, about doing the right thing." "The right thing?" My voice was getting louder. "The right thing is letting me live in the home I bought and renovated with my own money?" Dad's jaw tightened. "Your brother has children, Melinda. You have choices they don't have." I didn't argue. I didn't sign anything. I didn't even respond. I just folded the document, put it in my purse, and walked away. That night, I scanned every page and added it to my evidence file. The rest of the week passed in tense silence. I didn't announce to my family that I'd signed new tenants. I didn't explain my decision or justify my actions. I just waited and documented everything. Every passive-aggressive Facebook post from Carly. Every guilt-trip text from relatives. Every attempt to contact me about working things out. Friday evening, I sent a group text to my parents, Colin and Carly. "I'd like to host a final discussion about the duplex at my home next Saturday morning at 10 a.m. We can settle this once and for all." I chose my duplex deliberately. My ground, my rules, my terms. Saturday morning, I prepared like I was going to trial. Fresh coffee, water glasses, and manila folders stacked neatly on my dining room table. Inside each folder, copies of the signed lease with the Franklins, personal information redacted, itemized financial breakdowns, printouts of affordable housing options for Colin and Carly, legal information about tenant rights and property law, and a complete timeline of our communications. The duplex was spotless. The energy was corporate meeting, not family brunch. At exactly 10 a.m., my family started arriving. Mom and Dad came first, their faces tight with forced smiles. Colin and Carly showed up 5 minutes later with an oversized presentation binder that looked like something from a real estate seminar. But the real surprise was seeing Aunt Linda, Uncle Greg, and Cousin Beth file in behind them. Uncle Greg, a former estate lawyer who'd retired last year, gave me a knowing look as he settled into my living room chair. They'd brought reinforcements. Carly immediately took control, opening her binder with theatrical flair. Inside were full-color printouts of floor plans, Pinterest mood boards, and contractor estimates. She'd clearly spent hours preparing this presentation. "We envision the duplex as a true multi-generational legacy," she began, her voice confident and rehearsed. "A place where family can support family, where the twins can grow up with stability and love." She pointed to proposed floor plans that showed walls knocked out, a playroom added, and an open-concept kitchen. Dad nodded approvingly throughout her presentation. Mom clutched her rosary like she was preparing for battle. Then Carly handed out budget sheets. $32,000 in renovations, split 50-50 between us, as if I should pay $16,000 to improve my own property for their benefit. When she finished, the room went quiet. Everyone looked at me expectantly. I distributed my folders calmly, like I was presenting quarterly reports at work. "The unit has been rented," I said simply. "The lease is signed, the deposit is secured, and the tenants are moving in Monday." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Mom gasped. Dad's face went red, and Carly's carefully composed expression cracked. "You did this behind our backs?" Dad demanded. I opened my folder and walked them through the financial reality. Annual rental income lost, renovation costs, mortgage obligations, 5-year projections that showed total losses approaching $200,000. Uncle Greg reviewed my documents silently, his lawyer instincts kicking in despite his retirement. Then I presented alternatives. Apartments at Riverdale Oaks, 3 bedrooms for $1,500 a month. Qualifying criteria for housing assistance programs, first-time buyer loan options. I even offered to help. $1,000 loan for a security deposit, weekly childcare support so Carly could work, resume assistance for Colin. That's when Carly lost it. "We already gave notice," she screamed, jumping to her feet. "Our lease is up in 6 days. We have nowhere to go." "You assumed you could take something that wasn't offered," I replied calmly. "That's not my fault." Dad slammed his hand on my coffee table. "You're making your family homeless." Carly lunged forward, trying to snatch the folder from my hands. "You selfish bitch." That's when I played my ace. I placed my phone on the table and hit play. The audio was crystal clear. The entire dinner conversation from 3 weeks ago, unedited and damning. Carly's voice saying she'd told people I'd agreed to let them move in months earlier. Her admission that they'd already given notice on their apartment. Her casual discussion of renovations like my approval was a foregone conclusion. The contrast with everything she'd just said was undeniable. Uncle Greg slowly slid the family housing memorandum back into his briefcase. Mom started crying. Dad stood up, his face purple with rage. "This isn't over, Melinda." Carly stormed out without another word. Colin lingered for a moment, looking like he wanted to say something, then followed his wife to the car. As the front door slammed shut, I finally exhaled. But my relief was short-lived. As I started cleaning up the coffee cups and unused water glasses, I noticed a file folder left behind on the couch. Inside was a printed email thread between Dad and someone at the city planning office. The subject line read, "Rezoning inquiry, duplex to triplex proposal." The date stamp was from 2 weeks before Carly's announcement at Sunday dinner. They hadn't just planned to take my duplex, they'd planned to change it completely. They came wearing smiles and Sunday clothes. They left with lawsuits and shredded delusions. That email thread about rezoning my duplex into a triplex changed everything. Dad wasn't just supporting Colin and Carly, he was planning to fundamentally alter my property without my knowledge or consent. The betrayal cut deeper than all of Carly's social media games combined. I called Jennifer immediately. Can they do this? Can my own father try to rezone my property behind my back? Not without your signature, she said. But the fact that he inquired shows premeditation. This wasn't a desperate family asking for help. This was a calculated plan to take control of your investment. Monday morning, I sent Jennifer everything: the email thread, the family housing memorandum, audio recordings, screenshots. By Tuesday, she'd drafted cease and desist letters for Dad, Carly, and anyone else involved in what she called harassment and attempted property manipulation. Meanwhile, Carly's online campaign went nuclear. She posted tearful TikTok videos about being betrayed by blood family. Instagram stories showed her packing boxes while sobbing. Facebook posts hinted that I'd fabricated documents to avoid helping my homeless niece and nephew. Each post got dozens of sympathetic comments from people who only knew her version of the story. You deserve better. Family should stick together. Some people have no heart. But I wasn't the same person who'd sat quietly at that Sunday dinner 3 weeks ago. Instead of defending myself publicly, I documented everything: screenshots, timestamps, IP addresses. Jennifer advised waiting until Carly crossed the line into actual defamation, which happened sooner than expected. Wednesday night, I got alerts that my name was appearing on landlord review sites. Someone had created multiple accounts to post one-star reviews claiming I was an abusive landlord who evicted a single mother with twins and violated housing discrimination laws. The posts included photos of supposed black mold that I recognized from a Google image search. Jennifer traced the accounts back to Carly's home network within hours. "This is harassment and libel," she said. "We can press charges if you want." Instead, I took a different approach. I wrote a detailed blog post titled, "When Family Tries to Steal Your Home, My Story," and posted it on Reddit's legal advice forum. I included receipts, redacted lease documents, screenshots of renovation demands, audio clips of the dinner conversation. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Thousands of upvotes, hundreds of comments supporting my position. Someone connected Carly's Etsy shop to her harassment campaign and started a thread exposing her manipulation tactics. The story spread to Twitter, where it gained even more traction. By Friday, Carly's small home decor business was getting review bombed. Scammer. Manipulator. Home thief. She closed the shop temporarily, but the damage was done. Her reputation was digitally destroyed, entirely by her own actions. That's when Colin called me for the first time in a month. "Mel, we need to talk." His voice was shaky, uncertain. "Can I come over?" He arrived alone Saturday morning, looking like he hadn't slept in days. We sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen Carly had planned to renovate, and he finally told me the truth. "She doctored your voicemail," he said quietly. "That recording where you supposedly agreed to let us move in months ago? She edited it from 3 different conversations." My stomach dropped. "What else, Colin?" "The family agreement thing. That was all her idea. She convinced Dad that you'd already said yes and were just being difficult. She told everyone you'd discussed this privately and agreed to it." He ran his hands through his hair. "The worst part? She was planning to claim verbal co-ownership if we moved in. Said family property becomes shared property after 6 months of residence. I don't know if that's true, but she believed it." "Why are you telling me this now?" Colin looked up at me with genuine remorse. Because I'm done protecting her lies. I've been packing since Wednesday. We're separated, Mel. I'm taking the twins to Riverdale Oaks. Alone. Monday brought the cease and desist letters. Jennifer had crafted them perfectly. Professional, threatening, and backed by solid evidence. Carly received hers with screenshots of her review bombing, IP tracking data, and a detailed list of legal consequences if the harassment continued. Her response was predictably dramatic. She posted a tearful video claiming she was being silenced by lawyers and lawsuits. But the comments section wasn't as sympathetic this time. Too many people had seen my Reddit post. Too many had connected the dots. Tuesday, Carly launched a GoFundMe titled "Help Us Recover from Family Eviction." The description claimed she and Colin were homeless with twins, using photos of Lucas and Lily crying to generate sympathy. She set the goal at $15,000. I reported the campaign immediately, sending GoFundMe my documentation proving the claims were false. They suspended and deleted the page within 6 hours. That's when I decided to end this once and for all. I created a Google Drive folder titled "For Family Transparency" and filled it with everything: screenshots, timelines, financial breakdowns, audio recordings, and the rezoning email from Dad. I sent the link to every relative who'd texted me guilt trips, every family friend who'd questioned my character, every person who'd taken Carly's side based on her lies. The message was simple: you may judge me, but judge me with the truth. The responses started coming within hours. Aunt Karen: "Oh honey, I had no idea, I'm so sorry." Cousin Brent: "Jesus, Mel. Why didn't you tell us this was what really happened?" Uncle Mike: "Carly played us all. You did the right thing." Even Mom called, crying: "I should have listened to you, baby. I should have known better." But Dad stayed silent. Radio silence for 6 weeks. Then, last Sunday night, my phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. Dad's name on the caller ID. I hesitated before playing it, not sure I was ready for another confrontation. His voice was cold, controlled, but not angry. Just 7 words that sent ice through my veins. "You've made your point, but this isn't over. They came to play house in my duplex. I turned the lights off, changed the locks, and set their lives on fire." Dad's voicemail played on repeat in my head for days. "You've made your point, but this isn't over." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. After everything that had happened, he still wasn't backing down. I forwarded the recording to Jennifer. "We need to be prepared for whatever comes next." She agreed. "Document everything. Don't engage with any of them directly. All communication goes through me now." I cut off all family contact, except through legal channels. Blocked phone numbers, social media accounts, email addresses. If they wanted to talk, they could hire a lawyer. But Carly wasn't done. Losing her Etsy shop and GoFundMe had only made her more desperate. She started a new Instagram account, posting cryptic videos about narcissistic family members and financial abuse. Each post got fewer views than the last, but she kept trying. The breaking point came when she posted a TikTok claiming I'd stolen her children's college fund. The video showed her crying while holding a printed bank statement, completely fabricated, but convincing to anyone who didn't know better. "That's defamation," Jennifer said when I showed her the video. "Actionable defamation. She's making specific false claims about theft." We filed a formal complaint within 24 hours. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my peace. Michael and Jessica Franklin turned out to be perfect tenants. They kept the unit spotless, never complained about anything, and even helped plant flowers in the shared garden. The duplex finally felt like what it was meant to be: a home and a smart investment. I scheduled another meeting with David Kim to review my financial position. Thanks to the steady rental income and my careful budgeting, I was actually ahead of my projections. Have you considered expanding? He asked, sliding a property listing across his desk. There's a triplex available near the university. Owner financing, decent neighborhood. The irony wasn't lost on me. Dad had wanted to turn my duplex into a triplex without my permission. Now I was looking at buying an actual triplex on my own terms. Let's schedule a viewing, I said. 3 weeks after the cease and desist letters went out, Colin texted me from his new apartment at Riverdale Oaks. The twins ask about you every day. Can we come visit this weekend? I hesitated. Part of me wanted to maintain complete distance from the whole mess, but Lucas and Lily weren't responsible for their mother's behavior. Just you and the kids, I replied. Saturdays at 2. We can make it a regular thing. That first Saturday, Colin looked exhausted but relieved. The twins ran around my backyard like they'd been freed from prison. Aunt Melinda, can we see our room? Lily asked innocently. This is Aunt Melinda's house, sweetheart, Colin said gently. We have our own place now, remember? I like our new place, Lucas said, surprising us both. It has a pool. Colin pulled me aside while the kids played. I'm paying off debt for the first time in years. Got promoted to logistics manager last month. Turns out I can actually function when someone isn't constantly creating drama. The divorce papers had been filed. He was asking for primary custody, citing Carly's unstable behavior and social media obsession. The evidence I'd gathered was helping his case. What about Mom and Dad? I asked. Dad's not speaking to me either. Mom visits the kids sometimes, but she knows not to mention all this. A month later, Carly tried one final desperate move. She created a fake legal document claiming she had verbal property rights to my duplex and tried to file it with the county clerk's office. The clerk, thank God, recognized it as fraudulent and flagged it immediately. Jennifer had her arrested for attempted fraud. The local news picked up the story. Woman arrested for fake property. Claim against sister-in-law. And suddenly everyone in Charlotte knew what had really happened. The narrative Carly had spent months crafting crumbled in a single news cycle. But the real victory came when I signed the papers on that triplex near the university. 3 units, stable rental market, positive cash flow from day one. I was officially a real estate investor, not just someone who owned a duplex. The day I got the keys, I drove past my parents' house. Dad's truck was in the driveway, but I didn't stop. Some bridges, once burned, are meant to stay that way. Summer came early to Charlotte. The duplex garden bloomed with the flowers Michael and Jessica had helped plant. The Franklins grilled burgers on their patio and invited me to join them sometimes. Lucas and Lily spent every Saturday afternoon in my backyard, their laughter replacing the tension that had poisoned this place for months. July 4th weekend, I threw a small barbecue. Michael and Jessica brought potato salad. Allison brought wine. Colin showed up with the twins and a 6-pack of beer, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in years. As we sat on my back deck watching the kids chase fireflies, Colin raised his beer bottle. To those who build and defend what's theirs. I clinked my bottle against his. And to those who know the difference between family and freeloaders. The twins ran over, sticky from watermelon and covered in grass stains. Aunt Melinda, can we come back next week? Every week, I promised, ruffling Lily's hair. This is your family's house too, the real family. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I sat alone in my living room, the same room where Carly had once spread out her renovation plans like she owned the place. I pulled out the crumpled papers she'd left behind months ago and fed them into my paper shredder, 1 page at a time. My phone buzzed with a notification from my property management app, a message from a potential tenant interested in one of the triplex units. I smiled and started typing my response. The duplex had been just the beginning. They tried to evict me from my future. Instead, I evicted their entitlement from my bloodline. 6 months later, my duplex was exactly what I'd always dreamed it would be: peaceful, profitable, and completely mine. Michael and Jessica had become the neighbors I'd always wanted, respectful and responsible. The garden they'd helped me plant was in full bloom, a riot of colors that made me smile every morning when I looked out my kitchen window. The triplex near the university was exceeding all expectations. 3 reliable tenants, positive cash flow, and a property value that had already increased 15% since I bought it. David Kim was helping me explore a fourth investment property, a small apartment building that had just hit the market. "You've got the eye for this," he told me during our quarterly review. "Most people start with one property and get overwhelmed. You're thinking like a real investor." Colin had flourished in ways that surprised everyone, especially himself. The promotion to logistics manager came with a significant raise, and for the first time in his adult life, he was building actual savings. The twins were thriving at their new school, and Colin was dating someone, a kindergarten teacher named Sarah, who treated Lucas and Lily like they were her own. Our Saturday visits had become the highlight of my week. Last weekend, we'd built a treehouse in my backyard, and Colin had shown a patience and focus I'd never seen from him before. "I should have stood up to her years ago," he told me as we watched the kids play on their new creation. I just, I don't know. I guess I thought family meant never saying no." "Family means protecting what matters," I replied. "Sometimes that requires saying no to the people who should know better." Carly had disappeared from our lives entirely after the fraud charges. The last I'd heard, she'd moved back to Georgia to live with her mother. The twins asked about her sometimes, but Colin had been honest with them in age-appropriate ways. "Mommy made some bad choices and needs to work on being better," he'd explained. The extended family had largely come around. Aunt Karen sent me a Christmas card apologizing again for believing Carly's lies. Cousin Brent invited me to his wedding. Even Mom called regularly now, though she was careful never to mention Dad. Ronald Carter remained a ghost in my life. I'd heard through Mom that he'd taken early retirement and spent most of his time at the VFW or working on his truck. He'd never apologized, never acknowledged that he'd been wrong. Some wounds, I was learning, don't heal. They just teach you who people really are. Spring arrived with a text message that made me laugh out loud. Jennifer forwarding me news that Carly's fraud case had been resolved with community service and mandatory counseling. "She's also required to pay restitution for the fake legal documents," Jennifer wrote. "Not much money, but it's the principle." The principle mattered more than the cash. It was official acknowledgement that I'd been right to fight back, right to defend what was mine. That evening, I sat in my home office, the room Carly had once planned to turn into a nursery for her twins, and reviewed my real estate portfolio. 4 properties now, generating enough passive income to give me options I'd never imagined having at 36. I could retire early if I wanted. Travel. Date. Maybe even consider having kids of my own someday, though Lucas and Lily filled that void pretty well for now. My phone buzzed with a notification from my property app. New listing alert, 4-unit apartment building near downtown Charlotte. I screenshot it and sent it to David Kim with a message. "Too ambitious?" His response came back immediately. "Let's take a look." As I locked up the duplex for the night, I stood on my front porch and looked up at the stars. The same stars I'd wished on 5 years ago when I was saving every penny for this down payment, working 7 days a week, and dreaming of financial independence. My phone lit up with another notification, a 5-star review from one of my triplex tenants. "Best landlord in Charlotte, fair, responsive, and professional. Highly recommend." I smiled and started walking back inside. Tomorrow I had a property showing at 9 a.m., a Saturday afternoon with the twins, and a Sunday brunch planned with Allison to celebrate my latest investment milestone. The duplex that had nearly torn my family apart had instead taught me the most valuable lesson of my life: the difference between supporting people you love and enabling people who don't respect you. I'd kept my house, but more importantly, I'd kept my self-respect. And with 4 rental properties generating steady income, I was building something bigger than just financial security. I was building the life I'd always wanted, one boundary at a time.